Pollyanna principle number 4 says that being the change we want to see means walking the talk of our values. We all hear that line all the time. We want to be the change we want to see. We don't really know what exactly does that mean. Well, what it really means is walking our talk. And sometimes we don't walk our talk. All of us do or don't at various times in our lives. And one of the best examples of not walking our talk, how many of you guys are Jon Stewart fans? Yeah? Okay, I am probably the biggest Jon Stewart fan there is on the planet. And so Jon Stewart, if you're listening on YouTube, call me. We love Jon Stewart. Why do we love Jon Stewart? Jon Stewart points out the hypocrisy in absolutely everything. In everything. And it's fun. He doesn't care if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, if you're liberal or conservative, left wing, right. He doesn't care. Hypocrisy is fun to point out. Except, of course, when you're pointing it out for me. And then it's not so fun. If you want me to walk my talk, that's a way different thing because I'm not so sure about that. I could give you, and once I start giving you some examples, you'll think of your own because we've got banks of them. We pay attention to them. We were working, we weren't working, and you'll soon see why we chose not to work with this group. There was a group that called us in to talk about some issues that they were having, wanted us to do some planning. This was a domestic violence organization. And their vision, as we talk about what's possible, their vision was what you would sort of expect from a DV organization. They wanted people to learn to deal with their anger differently. They wanted a community where people dealt with each other in respect and compassion. It's sort of what you would expect from the vision of a domestic violence organization: respect, compassion. And the board of this organization was so abusive to their staff that the staff unionized. Now, is that modeling the behaviors we want to see in the community? Is that being the change we want to see? No, of course it's not. Well, we go from a small local organization like that to the sad and unfortunate poster child of not walking the talk. And that is the largest organization in the world, and that is the American Red Cross. And I really, really wish, I plead, if I had a beg for YouTube, I would plead that the Red Cross would stop giving me so much material to write about. Because I have written blog posts, I have written white papers. The Red Cross, when we think about all the things with the Red Cross, we remember that stuff messed up after 9/11, and then we remember that they had problems after Katrina. And we know that the Red Cross has probably gone through more CEOs in the past 10 years than I've probably, changed my socks. And yet there is something that the Red Cross has done that we're not that aware of. I want to read it because I want to make sure I get it right. But this is something for which the American Red Cross paid almost $10 million in fines to the Food and Drug Administration. $10 million in fines. According to the FDA, the Red Cross failed to ensure the safety of the nation's blood supply. Food and Drug Administrator inspectors found that some Red Cross blood centers would keep testing blood until the tests delivered the desired results. For instance, blood that tested borderline positive for a given virus, which you would think would be thrown out, would be retested 5 or 6 times until the numbers came out negative. When we're talking about being the change we want to see, when we're talking about walking the talk, here's what happened at the Red Cross. And it's not so different than what happens with us frequently. Blood for the Red Cross is money. And so their decision was, we need the money, we'll test, and we'll test. Now, how many times do we make decisions based on money? Where we say, I don't really know, but the money is just sitting there and is waiting for us. And so if being the change that we want to see means walking the talk of our values, what does that make possible? We can model to the community the behaviors we want to see. We can be more conscious of the talk that we want to walk. We can ask the questions ahead of time and have a code of values that not only sits in our lobby and looks real pretty, but that we actually use for our decision making. We can ask the question, when we have tough decisions to make, how will we know which one is the right one? We can ask the question ahead of time, are there groups from whom it is not okay to accept donations? And we can know that ahead of time because we will not have that pile of money sitting on the table. You guys have all been there. When you are a recovery organization and there is a $50,000 potential donation from the local beer distributor, what happens? That pile of money starts talking to you, doesn't it? It's got like its own values. It's the devil on your shoulder, and it sits there and it talks. Come on, you know you could make payroll for 6 months with this. It talks to us. Well, if we've made the decisions beforehand, there's no right and wrong decision. For some folks, it is absolutely right. That's the talk they want to walk. They know they need those dollars, and they figure out how to make it work. And for some folks, it's absolutely not right. But those are the talk you want to make sure you know beforehand, and that we are sure that we can walk that. Because when we model our behaviors to the community, all of those things that people say are impossible, we're showing them it's not. You know, those people will never work together. Well, we show them that we will. Those people will never make their decisions. They'll always take the money. Well, we show them that maybe we won't. What we're doing is modeling the change that we want to see. What we find happens when the decisions are hard. And I want to talk for just a second about values and what it is to walk your talk, because when we talk about values with groups, that's the point where folks who have very little tolerance for what, it's why I called the book The Pollyanna Principles, to be honest. For, you know, oh, you Pollyannas, you know, just stop. People who have very little patience for that, they don't want to hear about vision and values. That's all that touchy-feely stuff. That's all that mumbo-jumbo, right? Values are the single most practical thing we can talk about. Is there anything more practical than deciding, do we accept donations or not? Is there anything more practical, any of you, than an organization that is so abusive to its staff that it unionizes? That's practical. One of the reasons, I will share with you, one of the reasons that I don't use PowerPoint, that I use flip charts as often as I can, and when I get into a room that's bigger than this, I'll use an overhead, is because if we're talking about interconnectedness and engagement, there's nothing as disengaging as a PowerPoint presentation in a dark room with a red dot. But you guys just watched me with a pen in my hand circle something, and it's in real handwriting. To us, that's a values decision. To us, that's a values decision. And so it's the little things. There's nothing more practical than a flip chart and a pen. But it's the little things. When we fail to walk our talk, 9 times out of 10, it's out of fear. Frequently about money, sometimes about something else. When we're not walking our talk, it is usually out of fear. So how can we make sure that we're not in a position of fear and that we are able to be the change we want to see?